Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have an instructive game to share with you from the 2017 World Cup on the white end Liren, playing against Vidit Gujrathi. All right, on board, white here shoots for a Catalan. Bishop b4 check thrown in. Bishop d2, and we have this bishop retreat line, claiming this bishop is a bit misplaced, maybe a bit more vulnerable as well. Knight e4 ideas. All right, let's get a few more developing moves in here. Both sides castled. And now bishop c3. So from here, black continues with c6, strengthens the center. Next up, prepares to finish development on the queen side. This is a window for black to play knight e4 and go hunting for that bishop. In this case, if the knight did hop into e4, you may see similar to the game, which is to say following up bishop c3 with b3. So something like this. This is an opportunity for black to take the knight. On the downside, you are helping white develop a piece, and nearby there's that e4 break. So black is losing some time in making 3 knight moves like this to track down that bishop. Not the approach here by black. The approach here is with c6. Now comes b3, knight e4 only now. And things are different because the bishop can now fianchetto. Very roundabout way, but okay, bishop fianchettoed now. Follow up bishop e6. And now this point here, how to overtake this e4 square. It's with knight f to d2. So 2 attackers now on this point. Black strengthens his control over this square, plays knight d to f6. Another approach, it's weakening, but this f5 move is available. Now, how would play continue here? I just want to give you a little bit of a feel for this new structure. With f5 in there, there's some downsides clearly. e5 and e6 are holes. Here's how you can continue. There still would be this fight over that e4 square. So in response to f5, white could go ahead and capture. And after the recapture, immediately challenge the e4 pawn. And now what do you do as black? If knight to f6, you could once more increase the pressure on e4. And in the event of this capture, you have your pick. I'm drawn towards pawn captures, and this sort of exposes this weakened e6 pawn. It's backward, and now there's major pieces that could apply pressure to it. I'm not saying this is some winning position or anything. It's around even, but I feel that it's an attractive position here for white. f4 nearby, clamping down on any thoughts of an e5 break. All right, not the approach here. Black does not make this, doesn't play this f5 move, doesn't weaken a bunch of squares in his camp. He plays with pieces. Knight d to f6 plays within the structure. Queen c2, the fight continues. Finally, knight captures. We're, of course, recapturing with a new piece. And now white is in position to successfully play e4. And this will help extend the scope of that Catalan bishop. Black takes, knight recaptures, and from here, queen c7 is played. Now, a blunder here for black would be to play c5. Bishop is unprotected. Knight takes knight is there with check. And thanks for the bishop. So, queen c7 it is. Bishop defended, rooks connected. Key move here, c5. So what's going on with c5? 2 things to really note. The main things that come to mind for me here. This knight is helped. This bishop is hurt. If there's no c5, the bishop doesn't see the world. So that's the trade-off. This knight is helped because there's a big square now available on d5. This is a hole. That's the trade-off. Helped piece, hurt piece. From here, rook f to g8, rook f to e1, and from here, rook d7 is played. Computer isn't really a big fan of this. I believe mentality is, okay, maybe prepare to put more pressure here on the center. What the computer's drawn towards, it likes this move here, h6, one of the moves it likes. Cuts out any knight g5 moves. All right, rook d7 on board. Knight g5 is now top. And at this point, move 18 for black. He ends up capturing here on c5. Now, it's already a little bit tricky for black at this point. Even without the capture on c5, it's decisive. White has a decisive advantage after move 18 here. B takes c5. What other option does black have here? Well, computer's pointing out h6 straight away, questioning that invasive knight. Now, if h6 was played, it says knight f3 into e5 is a top move. It's looking at that. Calls it around +1. There's also a sacrifice available to white. At the end of this sacrifice I'm putting on, it calls it around +0.5. Let's see what this looks like. Maybe a reason why black was not questioning the knight. This is a move that's available to white. It's a pretty special line here. After king takes knight, there's a follow-up. Rook takes e6. Now, this rook is poison. What would be considered top here, rook d5, the doubling of the rooks. It's that position there. It's calling it around half pawn advantage for white. What would be the issue in this scenario? If king takes rook, the idea here would not be to immediately invite that last piece into the attack to give a check. No, the king would escape. The only move here, the winning move, would be the no soup for you move, queen g6. You will not run away, and you're stuck in the center. This is a mating attack. Rook e1 next, maybe even bishop h3 check. Could play it out a few more moves just for fun, just to see the mate. There we go. Check, check, and mate. Not where the king wants to be, with the queen still on board. So anyhow, in this game, we do not see this invasive knight here on g5 immediately questioned. It is the capture on c5. Pop quiz. How would you continue here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, a perfectly healthy move is the simple recapture. In fact, it still considers that winning for white. But even better is the move in the game. And if you spot this one, d5 played here. I love that move. A lot of stuff is focused on this d5 point. The bishop has been freed. Its eyes have been opened to f6. There's now this idea to swipe the knight and crash through on h7. This is a crushing position now for white. Decisive here for white. In the game, black takes with the c pawn. If you take with the knight, it's a checkmate in 2. If you try to, at this point, scare the knight away, for instance, with h6, also if g6, you could respond in the same way. If h6 or g6, a simple approach here, you could capture on e6. In fact, it's pointing out you could take on f7, take on f6. You have a pleasant pick. What I believe simplest of all is to just take here on e6 and in the end say, okay, material is balanced, but how are you going to handle this octopus knight? And I could assure you before this game started, this light square bishop was not dreaming of this position. This is completely busted here. nearby queen g6. There's going to be an accident happening shortly on these dark squares. All right, black does not play h6 here. It's c takes d5, and now we simply swipe the knight. White's ready to crash through now on h7. Black's approach here is to play g6, a move you might think, if it was played online as a mouse slip. Why doesn't black take here with the bishop or the pawn? Well, first of all, if you take with the pawn, it's a checkmate in 2. Queen takes h7, queen h8 for mate, or even queen f7 for mate in that position. What's the story here if bishop captures bishop? Now, I believe a big reason why this d5 move is working is because of white's king-rook. Its position here on e1 is super important. If black had captured here on f6 with the bishop, here's how play would continue. The queen sweeps in with check, and not queen h8 check. The king would slip away, and a punch would be thrown right back towards the white queen. The only winning path here for white would be with rook takes e6. And now what? Mate in one threat. How do you defend that? If you play g6, thanks for the bishop, white continues with the attack and is up a knight. And if you take the rook, the knight is there to recapture, and the queen will be won. So that's why we don't have bishop captures bishop. It's instead g6, cutting out the queen entry. But at this point, white is just up the piece, and the conversion is pretty much squeaky clean. So let's see the conversion here, playing up the piece. Knight kicked away. Bishop is now under fire. Queen cut off from its defense. Dark square bishop exchange. Light square bishop exchange. This knight will hold up this passed d pawn. Really a perfect square here on d3. Great blockader, number 1 blockader in the game. And it's going to naturally increase pressure or target this weak backward c pawn for black. So let's see what this looks like. Activating our pieces. The knight doesn't have to budge. It's going to require a little bit more work if you want to extract this knight. So king g7, if you try to give the knight a kick, g6 falls. So first king g7. Rook c4, simple enough. Idea, here, maybe even b4. Hammering away at that pinned pawn. From here we have f6, knight d3, e5, and not necessary to hold up this advance with the pawn. You'd be weakening your king. Do you want to play f3 and maybe knight f2? No, you don't have to play in that way. You could hold e4 up with the pieces alone. Queen f3 it is. Asking the rook here a question. What are you supposed to do? If you move the rook, c5 collapses. If you try and defend the rook with the queen, well, first of all, this queen has to do two things. Defend c5 and the rook, if you're going to defend the rook here. And in both cases, white has a nice trick. If queen c6, there's knight b4. That's winning some material, taking advantage of the pinned c pawn. And if queen d6, the rook is sandwiched here. Another slick move available to white. Knight f4. The idea, if you take the knight, the queen is overloaded. Rook takes rook, queen takes rook, queen takes rook. White's playing up a rook in the end. All right. Anything else to cover after queen f3? If rook here, an approach could be b4. Simple enough. Breaking down the c5 pawn. It's completely collapsing. Black's approach here. The queen goes back home. C pawn drops. We're now looking at a knight versus pawn imbalance. I should also mention that with that f6 move, when f6 was played kicking the knight away, that 7th rank has been weakened. And with these pieces still around, king much more exposed. We see this right away in this game. After queen a5, a little double attack, triple attack, rook c1, queen takes a, in the most direct fashion. Absolute best move here, knight e6, check. Big difference here with the king positions. You could afford to give up that extra piece to get at that king. Black takes the knight here. If king f7, queen d5, setting up discoveries is there. Rook takes knight. 7th rank now exposed. The queen pounces. Rook c8, check. Only one move here for black. Rook c7. There's no taming these pieces. Wild pigs on the 7th rank. Queen a3 is the try. Too late. Rook f7 is there. And at this point, black resigns. It's mate in a few if the game continued. King g8, we check our way to checkmate. All right, we only go as far as rook c7, or excuse me, rook f7 here. And black threw in the towel, so very nice game. Kicking off with c5, not long after, only 18 moves in, and it was already decisive advantage out of this Catalan here for Ding Liren. Anyhow, what are your thoughts with this one? Feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.